Welcome to the Nerd Pow Wow. Follow us on YouTube where we upload new videos every Friday, or check us out on your favorite podcast platform. Spoiler warning, we do deep dives on characters, storylines, and theory crafting. I'm pleased to announce we have a special guest joining us today, Kyle from the AlphaNerdPodcast. Kyle, kick it off. What do you want to tell us about your channel?
Ours is just a small Central PA based podcast. Some of which you featured on episodes before, John, as a guest. We usually go over news, popular culture, games that we've played, movies that we're going to watch, movies we've watched, or we will pick up a random subject every so often and go on for an hour about that.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, welcome on. With that said, Kyle, who are we talking about today?
You guys want to dive into a little bit of DC, and
we need an expert. We need somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, right. We do.
It's the dark side of comics for us.
Yeah. So John contacted me, said we're thinking about either doing Lobo or Darkseid. I suggested Darkseid because he is my absolute favorite DC character, hands down.
Nice.
Awesome.
So Darkseid was a character that originally appeared in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen in 1970. That was his very first appearance. It was a cameo appearance. Then the following year was the Forever People's issue number 1 in 1971. He was created by Jack Kirby, the legend. And that's where it all started, is the Golden Age comic books, when they were throwing a bunch of ideas at the wall to see what would stick. So then this is about the turning point when sci-fi was becoming very popular over superheroes and war stuff.
I'll tell you what, Darkseid, looking at that character, he seems like a bunch of ideas and see what sticks type of character.
Yeah.
There's a lot with them. I didn't have an idea what I was getting into talking about Darkseid.
Oh yeah, it's an extremely in-depth character. He's very very good. I love his whole shtick. He's always that villain that Superman. He was made pretty much. He was added into the Superman mythos because they couldn't get anyone else to be able to reasonably fight him. So they stuck him with Superman because Batman wasn't going to be able to do anything.
No,
don't tell Batman that.
Right.
He'll make a plan for that.
Well, he does later in the comic books and some of the things.
Yeah.
So, Darkseid's got 2 origins.
Okay.
He had his original origin was he was Prince Euxis of New Genesis of Apocalypse, and I'll give it a quick one because there's a lot to go over. But
yeah, and just for kind of like world stuff, Apocalypse is basically hell in the DC universe. Is that kind of accurate?
It's a planet like hell. It's not hell because hell actually exists in the DC universe because Lucifer and Morningstar actually exists.
Oh, fair.
Hell actually does have its own realm.
Okay.
Apocalypse and the counterpart planet, New Genesis.
Yeah, New Genesis. Is that heaven?
No.
Kyle, can you tell me more about heaven and hell?
Right. So that's pretty much the extent of it. Like they kind of look like it, how they each interact with each other as far as their looks and aesthetics.
Yeah.
They might as well be heaven and hell. But they're their own planets and their own like galaxy way on the far end of the universe for DC Comics.
Makes sense.
Now,
say it. They don't come out and say it, but I always kind of felt like New Genesis and Apocalypse were almost like avatars of heaven and hell in the DC world. Like they really exist in the real world without being in a different realm. They were just
that's kind of like their whole aesthetic because that's what they were going with. So. His original origin was he was Prince Euxis, and he had a brother Drax, and there's a force called the Omega Effect. It's called the Omega Effect, the Omega Force. It's pretty much a combination of all the evil in the universe, in the entire DC universe, and that it's how Darkseid has most of his powers. So, in order to become the ruler of Apocalypse, he killed his brother. Then he killed his father, Yuga Khan, to become the ruler of Apocalypse. And then he meets his first wife, has his first son. His mother decides to knock off his wife because she felt that she was an issue. So his mother gets his wife killed, and then he kills his mother.
Mother-in-laws, right? I'll tell you what.
Right. So that's kind of like his original story. Long story short, then he gets a revamped origin in New 52, where his New 52 origin is his planet. They really don't go into detail the name of his planet, but it's its own separate thing. He was just a farmer, still named Euxis. He grew disdainful towards the old gods of his universe, and they pretty much had a Mountain Olympus. He went up there and started messing with them, so they got into a big war with each other. And as all these gods were fighting this war on their home world and their mountain, he started murking them and taking them out one at a time and absorbing their power, and then thus he became Darkseid through that. That was a New 52 origin.
Okay, now you said the old gods. Now I've read that the old gods are like Zeus and like our kind of mythological or how's that work?
That's for DC Rebirth and following into some of New 52.
Okay.
The original one, the old gods were like a whole separate pantheon on top of it. So it's very...
They were unique to DC.
Yes. It's because in the Rebirth and the New 52, yes, you are right, because Darkseid starts taking out Hercules, Zeus, and all them and absorbing their powers. That does happen in New 52. But the old gods that he originally killed were like a whole separate pantheon.
Yep.
For New Genesis and Apocalypse.
Got it.
So one of the biggest things with Darkseid is he's a transdimensional being. So no matter what universe you go to or whatever in the multiverse you go to, there's only one Darkseid. He exists across all of them. It's the same guy that exists across all of them. Same thing with Allfather. There's only one. That's how the new gods pretty much work. They just, there's not multiples. There's no them meeting themselves. One exists.
Okay. Truly unique, one of a kind beings, really.
Yeah, that's the reason he actually was against the Anti-Monitor for a while there. Even though you would think that they're both villainous, but he actually fought against the Anti-Monitor because of the realms and him being a singular entity.
Yeah. So with him going against the Anti-Monitor in, I believe, Final Crisis and Infinity War, not Infinity War, Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yep.
Pretty much Darkseid is one of those people like, this is my sandbox. You can't play in my sandbox. That's how he's existed to Chris. So his whole shtick is he wants to pretty much subjugate all living creatures across the universe, across the multiverse, really. And the main way he wants to go about it, is something called the anti-life equation. The anti-life equation is literally a mathematical formula to destroy free will. Mm-hmm. It's a literal mathematical equation that, if he figures it out, he can erase free will and make everyone his slaves.
So, and he's basing all of that on the Martian foundation of the life equation, because the life equation exists. It's a known commodity. And he believes that because the life equation exists, the anti-life equation has to exist. It's the opposite of free will. It's like it's DC does that a lot with balance of power. The yin exists, so the yang has to exist. It's really a cornerstone of a lot of their storytelling.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
and there's multiple stories where he finds it and something crazy happens with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after a guy like this, his only goal is complete dominion over the will of all creatures and all creation and all universes and all parallel worlds and timelines. Right? He finally gets this. What's he do with it? What's the end goal here? Is he say, okay, I'm cool?
There's been a couple stories. One of the newest stories, which I really didn't follow too much, is more or less a zombie apocalypse kind of thing, where Darkseid, Cyborg from the Justice League, gets a hold of the anti-life equation, and it also mixed with some disease, and he transmits it through pretty much any electronic screen. And with the anti-life equation, everyone becomes zombies, and that was a really crazy storyline. The original time he got a hold of the anti-life equation, used it to take over the world, and then Superman, Justice League rally up, defeat him, along with Metron, who's another new god who just kind of floats around in his chair and watches everything happen. He's more or less the Watcher.
Yeah.
So it's just like they do with any character like that. They get to a point where they win, then everyone rallies up, or a MacGuffin happens and resets status quo. It's just how characters like that are written. But Crisis on Infinite Earth was really not too much about the anti-life equation. It was more about stopping the Anti-Monitor from destroying everything. And at that point, Batman shot him with a gun.
Of course he did.
Well,
Yeah.
There's a lot behind that with some of his origins. As Darkseid grew in power, he had another son with his second wife, and it was prophesized that his second son would overthrow him and defeat him and take him out of the equation. So he traded him to New Genesis with Allfather, the head guy of New Genesis, to pretty much get his son away from him because he couldn't convince his second wife to kill her own son.
Right.
So
that Orion is a fairly big character sometimes in the comics. That son that he traded over there.
Yeah, he's around a lot. He anytime something goes on into space and Superman's around, usually Orion shows up and
in his weird little scooter device.
Yeah, he's Orion's sweet. So
but he just reminds me of having kind of a space Segway.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
It's a space Segway.
Like, without question. So one of the other things that really interesting about Darkseid that I always really liked that came later on is the guy you see, the guy with the stone face and all that. That is literally just an avatar that holds a small portion of his power.
Yeah, there's a true form, right? That he has?
Yeah,
okay.
Darkseid has a true form, and his true form is literally just an amass of energy. Literally all the evil in the multiverse's energy is what Darkseid's composed of, which makes up the Omega Force and gives him his powers. And the way it works is he's locked in his own separate universe, because if he ever actually brought his real self to any universe, it would disintegrate. He would literally burn it up. It can't hold him.
Yeah, the intensity of his evil.
Yeah, so it's really, so every time you see the Rock guy, and that's why in some of the comics, sometimes he's, manhandling Superman, sometimes a little more even, sometimes he's getting wrecked by Superman, because every time a new avatar is created, it has usually different levels of power.
Okay. All right. That's a good way to kind of hand wave or excuse the writing sometimes where they're like, we really need this to happen.
Yeah.
But hey, it works. So all right. I want to talk about a clip I saw. I saw a clip where the Flash was talking about going back in time. And it's the whole would you kill baby Hitler thing, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is the Flash goes back in time to when Darkseid's a baby, does the little go through things with his hand and like shake up Darkseid's organs and whatever, right? And like it reveals like he goes up, he has that like moral quandary, right? And you're like, the Flash, he's a good guy, he's not going to do it, right? And then it shows him leaving, and like Darkseid's little nose starts bleeding. I guess what happened there, A, and B, I guess does that plan work if that's just an avatar?
No, because he could kill him when he was that baby, because that was back when he was Euxis before he got all his power, before he became one with the Omega effect. Now, the reason why there was such a backlash for that is because Darkseid is literally a personification of evil, and he's the holder of all that evil across the universe. He's a universal constant. So he's the, like you said before, the yin and the yang.
Okay.
He's the dark side of that equation, literally, dark side. Without him, the universe gets destroyed because he represents death and control and keeping life from expanding too fast and too far. So
Okay.
he's there to cull the herd, while the other side of the equation is there to keep them breeding. So every time someone's tried to permanently get rid of him, the universe usually gets destroyed, or, you know, Barry Allen has to reverse time again and stop it from happening because he's a universal constant. He's needed there to represent it.
Okay. So you can't get rid of him for so many reasons.
You just
Yeah,
gotta
you
put a
can't
box
go.
with
It's
the
gotta
Highfather
exist.
and leave the two somewhere.
Originally it was Highfather, but in the later comic books, Superman becomes the constant for good and hope and that stuff, which is crazy.
Because of course.
Because of course.
Superman, why not?
It's DC. Yeah, that makes sense. Superman, he's the GOAT.
So,
Yeah.
like,
That's one of the reasons that I tend to lean Marvel versus DC, is just that the DC's continuity is always in flux. I mean, it was originally supposed to be, DC was supposed to originally be kind of a pulp magazine. You know, it was supposed to be an adventure. It wasn't supposed to be it wasn't supposed to be these continuing stories. That wasn't until later that they really adapted that. You know, like the original Batman stories, a lot of them were one-offs. That's why Batman's old stories, he was kind of wooden, kind of a shadowy figure that fought crime. He didn't know much about Bruce Wayne. He didn't know much about, you know, his personality even. He was just this superhero that fought villains. So DC kind of developed their continuity as they went, and then they subjected to change all the time.
I mean, both Marvel and DC did that about the same time. That was roughly about, I'd say, the 80s when that really started. They started bringing everything into continuity together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole point of DC is focused on, trying to think of how to put this in the ideal. DC's always been focused on the ideal. You know, Superman, a living god, you know, trying to pretend he's human and doing everything the right way. Where Marvel's more down to earth, you know, Captain America, just the best human there possibly can be that tries to do the right thing. Marvel's always tried to base it closer to home, less extreme levels of power, and trying to make it more humans trying to do the right thing or making decisions based off humanity, where DC's always supposed to be the ideal.
Gotcha. So like Bruce Wayne or Batman, he is the fear of Gotham. That's the idea of Bruce, right? So kind of that thing that he's embodying that concept in a way.
Not the fear of Gotham. Bruce Wayne's and Batman's whole shtick is unwavering justice. Like,
Fair. Okay.
never waver for that, because the minute you start looking away or turn the other cheek, bad things happen. like his parents getting shot. Someone probably saw that going on and turned the other cheek. And that's whole Bruce Wayne's shtick is like, I'm never going to be that weak again where I let something happen when I could have done something.
Yeah.
And
fear is his weapon. It's his weapon.
He uses fear as a weapon.
True.
But like Batman's main core identity is self-improvement to prevent anything bad from happening again.
Yeah.
He's almost an embodiment of anxiety in a way, because he's always planning for everything all the time.
Yeah. Paranoia, anxiety, that's the other half of him, the darker side. Paranoia, mistrust, antisocial. He's very antisocial. Like, that's just always been everything with DC is always the absolute heights, where most Marvel characters, some of them are more nuanced.
It's a little bit in the gray. Okay.
Magneto, where like he does bad stuff, but you understand why he does bad stuff, and it makes sense why he does bad stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and as I say, Batman, I'd probably say he's the embodiment of distrust. Because it's like he does that. I mean, he distrusts everything. Everything is flawed and everything needs questioned to make sure that it functions like it should. And that includes society. That includes everything around him.
Even the Justice League and the other heroes, like he has contingencies for everybody, right?
Yep. What's the name of that? There's a name for that. His
a protocol or something like that.
What's that?
I thought it was like a protocol or something like that.
It might be.
His contingency plans, they do have something called protocol. But yeah, so that's DC's crux. It's always extremes, absolute levels, where Marvel's written a little differently. And just to like I said, we have Captain America. And then the only person that equates to him on DC side is literally Batman. Because if you look at their levels of power, they're both pretty much the same. Like,
yeah.
Batman can throw a motorcycle, and he's supposed to be a normal human. He's supposed to be some schmuck billionaire that does nothing, but he's literally an Olympian at everything.
Yeah.
Like, he can literally bench 500 pounds and rep it. Like, and he never sleeps.
Never sleep.
But so to get back towards our
Darkseid, yeah.
With Darkseid, like, because he has the new god physiology, he has a ridiculous amount of powers. There's pretty much nothing he can't do with his powers.
The laser eye thing is a little much, okay? Like,
that's part of the Omega. Yeah, the Omega beams. That's part of the Omega effect. Those
are a little crazy. All right.
Okay, let me point out how crazy the Omega effect is.
Okay.
Every time he hits you with the beam, it can literally do whatever it wants when he wants it to. He can control gravity if he hits you with them. He can send you forward and back in time. He can disintegrate you. His Omega beams literally do whatever he feels like they want to do. And they move as fast as the Flash. And the only person that can actually take them without completely dying or being affected by them instantly is Superman.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Because Superman.
One of the crazy things he can do with the eye beams and his Omega effect is called the Omega Sanction. So the way that works is he hits you with them. He teleports you into your own universe, more or less. And the way it works is you live your entire life. Something bad happens, you die, you get reborn, knowing you're reborn, and then you live another life that was slightly worse than the first life. And you repeat that cycle over and over and over again for forever. Where every time you were reborn, your life is a little worse every time. And you're fully aware of this. That's why I love Darkseid. He's awesome. Like that's a level of diabolical.
Yep.
So
and it The only person I think that's ever embodied his power outside of him in all of DC was Supergirl, right?
Yeah, she got a hold of his power for a while, and then in the DC Rebirth, he had a third child named Gale, I believe, where she has the capabilities of holding in the Omega effect and to be able to use it. And she does for a while, but then she realized she doesn't have the mental capability with it, so she can't forever. She can use it, but it's gonna drive her nuts. She can't. She's not as dead on the inside as he is.
She takes psychic damage every time she uses it.
Yeah, so she gives it back to him because she can't do it. She can't. So it's really crazy about how this character works, and he's always involved in the big things. Like it's like if you look at his character design, it's very plain. He's just a big rock dude with a gray suit, more or less.
Yeah.
Like he's not very bright, he's not very colorful, he's not very, but his character design is so simple, but it has such a sense of menace.
It does, and strength.
Yeah, like because they gave him a very simple costume design, but because of how he always carries himself, like in the comic books and stuff, it always has that sense of menace, which is really amazing. That's really good writing, really good design. Is when you want to make a villain without having to go over top to make him threatening. Now, the fact that he's got every power in the universe, whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He can literally do whatever he wants. I was reading through because I love Darkseid, and I was reading through some more of the in-depth stuff, and I was like, it's a little more than I ever knew.
Yeah.
It goes very deep.
Every page I'd turn, I'd find something new out about Darkseid and his abilities, or just the I-beam's crazy. That hands down, like Darkseid's nuts. Yeah.
So, one of the storylines, Final Crisis. John said one of you guys was looking into that a little bit and started getting lost in the woods with it.
That would be me.
Yeah. I'll go into some of it because it's a lot, and it's one of those things you have to either be really familiar with the DC universe to be able to pick it up, and because you got to know mother boxes and all the other stuff that comes along with it. So it's a lot of studying. So Final Crisis pretty much starts out with the prophecy of Orion. Him defeating his father.
Hey, can we just pause for 1 second? Sorry, Kyle. I think there's something making a rattling noise coming from you.
Is there? You still hear it?
Yeah, say something for like a second.
I don't know what it could be.
Oh, yeah,
Are you guys getting that?
Yep.
No, I don't hear anything other than him.
When he's talking.
Yeah, so when your microphone's picking audio up, it's making like a noise.
It's like a vibration.
Are you like kicking something maybe, or?
I mean, I'm not moving right now. You can still hear it though?
Yeah.
Right towards the end. I hear it right towards the end of when he stops speaking.
It's on like a thing, so the longer he talks, it keeps going while he talks.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Hold on a second.
I'm gonna write this time code down.
How about now? Is it still going?
Talk and say something for a little longer.
All right. Can you still hear it, John? Because I'm wondering if that's what it was.
I think that's what it was.
It was a fire sound.
The fireplace things.
Got it. Okay, all right, cool.
I was starting to pick up on the lighting engine thing.
Yeah, Discord's trying to digitize the sound of a fire going.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
I wasn't hearing it at all.
Yeah.
I heard it, but I didn't pick up early till John picked it up.
Yeah, I'm a little sensitive to those things sometimes.
Good job,
Anyways.
John.
All right, cool. Well, we are let me put this time code in. 29 Steve. All right, cool.
You back?
Back.
All right, so Final Crisis was pretty much like the prophecy of Orion coming to fruition, where he beats Darkseid. And the aftermath of that is, as he was leaving, Darkseid kind of shoots him with a gun, kills him, shoots him in the back. Which we'll get into like how that happened when he didn't even really have a gun in the first place, because it's really insane. He used the Omega effect to send a bullet back in time to get Orion.
Okay, all right.
So it's really insane. But during the whole shtick, then he got the anti-life equation and started, gaining power and stuff again. And because Orion's dead, the prophecy couldn't be filled. So during that near the end of it, Batman breaks his code of using guns and shoots him with a bullet that has a special type of radiation that will kill new gods. Because that's the whole purpose. Is Darkseid kind of created those bullets to be able to kill new gods. So Batman uses it to stop Darkseid.
Yeah.
Well, as he's shooting Darkseid, Darkseid hits him with the Omega beams and teleports him back in time. So now Batman's in the past. Darkseid's technically dead.
For now.
And it gets wild. From that, Spence breaks it off to something called Boss Darkseid. So when Darkseid died, because he's a universal constant, he got reincarnated. So when he got reincarnated as a big black guy who becomes a mob boss.
Okay.
And then he uses all his powers and connections to bring the spirits and souls of the other new gods that were part of Apocalypse to Earth in different people's bodies, where he starts a crime syndicate all over again on Earth as a dude without the Omega effect and all that. And it's just, it gets really in the woods, like, what's going on here?
That's pretty nuts.
And
I can see why you like the character. I can see you liking one of those characters, You just got this.
Well, yeah.
That's cool.
Well, I mean, I fell in love with Darkseid like a lot of people in the 90s fell in love with Superman, Batman, or any of that, was the animated series.
Okay.
Superman, the animated series, Batman, the animated series. That's what really kicked off most of us into the comic books. X-Men, so on and so forth. So, I first saw him in the 90s when he was in Superman, the animated series, and he was voiced by Michael Ironside.
Okay.
And I always loved his portrayal of that character, where he never raised his voice, no matter how angry he got. And it was just very intimidating that he always talked with such a calm demeanor no matter what happened. And then from there, they just had a lovely cast of people to voice him in different media. I mean, they had Tony Todd voice him forever until he died in a lot of the animated movies. Andre Braugher, the guy from not Reno 911. What's the current cop show with Andy Samberg?
Oh,
what is it?
Brooklyn 911.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the police chief. He also voiced Darkseid for a while before he died.
Nice. So most of the voice actors have kind of keyed in that he's kind of a plain character in a way, like his design. So they kind of keep that like strong, kind of quiet energy with their voicing of his character. It sounds like.
Yeah, like a lot of Michael Ironside was the most light voiced person that ever played him. Like everybody after that is literally almost pretty much everyone that's voiced him afterwards either is a really based voice or they're black. Like it's official that Darkseid's a black guy at this point.
Oh, hey, there we go. You've heard it here.
They did Michael Ironside, they did one other white guy, and then everyone else has been black. So I'm okay with this. Because just how he's portrayed as a character.
Yeah.
You like they even got Keith David of all people to voice him most recently.
Wow.
And it's just like I said, it's either booming deep voices or black guy.
Keith
Whatever.
David has a great voice anyway, though. He's that guy.
I love him right now as Darkseid. I don't like him better than Michael Ironside because that was the original for me. But it's still very good. I still enjoy it. I mean, there's so much. Like oh my god.
Go on for a while
Yeah,
about Darkseid.
There's a lot we can get lost in the woods with this, but
Wayne, did anything pop out for you with Darkseid? Any story that you liked or thing about him that you thought interesting?
Well, when I was it Event 52 or New 52 event?
Yeah.
And the first step or first comic, apparently it was made that he killed the whole Justice League. I guess it came back to show that he really didn't. But did it start off that way?
Or were you watching the animated movie, The Apocalypse War?
No. No. It was actually one of those history of Darkseid episodes on YouTube.
Okay.
And that was one that they happened to reference in that one.
Yeah. So that'd be New 52. So when they did the New 52, like I said, they revamped his origins a little bit. And they revamped his costume design to what it is in the comic book that is to the right, the one that says Darkseid, where they gave him like a lot more metal armor instead of just the more plain. But the way he worked in that he went to Earth looking for the anti-life equation and his daughter because she went MIA and he doesn't know yet, but at that time, she's pretty much a sleeper cell agent. She's being raised to kill him, but also staying as close to him as possible.
Okay.
So she's pretty badass. But then she kind of realized he's needed. So yeah, there's a couple times in New 52 where the original one where they just stopped him, and then there was another time where he killed all of them. Like he did a number on them. Like, he took Superman and pretty much made Kryptonite a living virus and injected it into him.
Oh.
Which permanently cut him off from his powers.
It's going to be a bad time for Soups.
Yeah, and that was also extremely crazy. Like, it's very wild with this character, like, and just like Thanos or any of these big over top, no matter what they do, they can't keep them in winning. There's always going to be something that brings back the status quo. So the story you're referencing is after he pretty much destroyed the Justice League, and pretty much destroyed the planet. The Flash does what he does best: run backwards in time and reset everything.
Yeah, see,
because the way they did it, and they kind of touch in on it, the Apocalypse War movie on the animated side of things, is Darkseid did such irreparable damage to the Earth that it was knocked off its axis and it was going to fly off into space here at some point. Because like half the molten core was gone, and Damian Wayne died, and Batman's all screwed up because Batman spent like 10 years brainwashed by Darkseid, and then also Darkseid cloned him a bunch.
Batman's?
Yeah.
Batman.
It was wild. Like, it's wild what he gets into.
Was there the female Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz, in this event? Or the New 52?
No, I think they still had Hal Jordan at the start of the comic books.
Okay.
I think Jessica Cruz is a DC Rebirth more. I would have to double check. See, I'm not as much on the Green Lantern as much. There's some stuff I know, Like there's a lot of like the War of Light. I know a lot about that because I thought that was cool.
Ryan Reynolds
But,
played the Green
I kind of
Lantern,
fell
right?
off. What's up?
Ryan Reynolds played the Green Lantern, right?
We
Yes,
don't
he
talk
did.
about that.
About that.
I thought I saw something.
Yeah. So if the comic book you were looking into, the history was involving Jessica Cruz, that would probably be more DC Rebirth, and I have not really kept up with that too much yet. I've only jumped into some small things in DC Rebirth, like Aquaman, which is really good. But
Oh yeah, wasn't there something about Aquaman? Now that we bring him up, John or Moiraibane.
What's that?
Did you have a question about Aquaman?
Oh no, I was talking to him earlier about
Oh yeah,
DC comics or DC characters that have like direct parallels to Marvel and stuff like that, and a lot of people really feel like Namor was kind of a ripoff of Aquaman, but Namor actually came first. He was before Aquaman, so which is unusual. Because DC existed significantly before Marvel. Most characters that are similar, DC did first.
yeah,
when it comes to that. Even the people like to talking about Darkseid. People like to talk about Thanos and Darkseid, and I mean Thanos was what's his face literally said that he was inspired by Darkseid. So I mean, there's
that's actually an interesting story how that came out. Because I was trying to remember who the exact name of the dude was that created him. Jim Starlin.
Yeah.
Jim Starlin had an issue with Jack Kirby and them, and that's when he went over to Marvel and created Thanos. And he said, he openly admitted, Thanos was inspired by Darkseid, because Darkseid was out for 3 or 4 years before Thanos was ever created. And if you look at the power sets between the two, they're almost exactly alike, except for Thanos needs a magical gauntlet to even touch the powers of Darkseid.
Look, Darkseid had to absorb a bunch of people. Don't give me the gauntlet thing, okay?
He is a god.
In all honesty, they've really diverged. Originally, they were very similar. Now they're wildly different to me. Their origin stories came from kind of the similar thing when it comes to Eternals versus new gods and old gods, etc. So there was a lot of similarities, but I think they've gotten pretty far apart. One's obsessed with death and one's obsessed with evil, or obsessed with control. So there's they've kind of diverged.
Eventually they found their own spots, which is good. Yeah. But to be fair, Thanos was originally just a dollar store knockoff of Darkseid.
Sure. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
No two ways about it.
And
just like Aquaman.
I'm not gonna lie. Aquaman is very much a knockoff of
Namor.
Because truly, Aquaman never really even found his real purpose and real seriousness until later in the comic books. He was always that joke character. He was a joke.
Yep,
still is a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. But it's funny because when it comes to the two characters, I actually kind of like Aquaman better than Namor, because Namor's always a prick. He never acts nice to anybody unless you're Sue Richards.
Yeah, that's the only woman he likes is Sue Richards.
He likes Sue, but yeah. So
trying to wife snatch poor Reed.
Yes.
Yeah, he's definitely infatuated. John, you're right. There's still sometimes Aquaman is a joke. If one of these days I should give you the DC Rebirth volumes, the first 4 volumes of DC Rebirth, because they did an Aquaman story where they were still making fun of him. And, a whole story about that. Isn't he just the guy that talks to fish? And he's like, no, fish don't talk. He goes, I control them with my mind. And the first half of the story is him trying to prove himself as a hero by fighting people he shouldn't even be fighting, because if he calls for the Justice League, no one's ever going to take him serious. So it's a really good story. And then it gets into like, him being the king of Atlantis and them having their own society underwater. And the United Nations are trying to like force themselves, to an allegiance, and all the politics behind that, where the government tries to arrest him and his wife, and then they literally break out of the Pentagon, and it's a really good story because it gets to the point where he even fights the Justice League. Him and his wife get into a scrap with the rest of the Justice League because at this point Aquaman's trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
And they actually put Superman down for a little bit because
Of course they did.
because his wife Mira can control water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mira's no joke.
Yeah, she has such fine control over water, she can actually manipulate your blood.
Ooh.
So that's kind of what she did to help out Arthur against Superman, is she started like making his blood super thick, so it started like jacking him up and slowing him down and giving him vertigo. And then Aquaman just started throwing haymakers. And it was a really good comic book because it really showed that if Aquaman's wet or in water, he's almost as powerful as Superman.
Yeah, he's underplayed a lot of times. He's exceptionally powerful and doesn't get enough. He actually doesn't get enough respect. He's quite the DC animated films do Aquaman proud.
Yes,
they usually do him very well. I like how he's represented in there better than how he's in the comics most of the time. They give some clout to his power set. They give him the right props, the right respect. Wonder Woman shows him all kinds of respect as another kind of representation of a people. I like him in the animated films a lot.
Yes.
So
yeah. I mean, DC is like you guys said. You guys don't like, a lot of you guys are Marvel. I like John's definitely Marvel.
Definitely Marvel.
Yep. Yeah, same here.
And I'm a comic guy through and through. I love Marvel because some of my favorite characters exist there, but I have a lot of my favorite characters in the DC end of it as well. But I'll switch off into Image Comics. I'll switch. I've been a comic guy for a long time, so my biggest.
I am very much a DC person because I love Batman and then Darkseid, and then and Aquaman because I also have Aquaman statues to go with this stuff. But I dabble in Marvel for certain characters. Nick Fury. A lot of the Ultimate stuff I like because it's a little more grounded into reality.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Is it Nick Fury original or Ultimate Universe Nick Fury that you lean towards?
I like both white and black Nick Fury. We're just going to go white and black.
Gotcha.
Because they're both amazing in different ways. White Nick Fury is the superpowered James Bond, where Black Nick Fury is the old soldier that knows how to run everything. And he's badass because he's plotting like Batman. He plots like Batman, where White Nick Fury's like James Bond, where he's just going to do some stuff and then hopefully it works out.
Yeah.
It usually does.
If you have never read, in the early 2010s, when Marvel was doing all these revamps and trying to, get the comic book sales back together in their failing industry that's happening right now, they did Nick Fury. They did a new run of Nick Fury. This new run of Nick Fury is literally regular white Nick Fury's son,
right?
Who looks exactly like Black Nick Fury, and his name's Nick Fury. They keep calling him Nick Fury, but then you find out later it's Nick Fury Jr. The whole series is done in this sweet 60s art style with like all the bright pinks, blues, yellows, very loud colors in this entire book. And there's very few words in the books, but there's just a lot going on. A lot of like James Bondy action kind of stuff. It's a really, and it's only 6 issues, but it's really, really good. So if you ever get the time, read through that because it touches on the white Nick Fury of the James Bondy over the top action, but then it also dives into like Black Nick Fury where he's a soldier and he's handling things like a soldier would and planning things out. So it's a nice combination of the two, and that was one of the newer revamps that I really, really like, and I really hope they stick with it.
Yeah, I liked it because they were just trying. They wanted to represent both. Feel like they wanted both Nick Furies in the mainstream continuity. Because they complement each other well in a lot of ways. That
yes.
I like the two characters, so I was kind of happy to see Nick Fury Jr. showing up there and being in there because that was one of the best parts of the Ultimate Universe was that version of Nick Fury. He represented to me. Ultimate Nick Fury, Black Nick Fury, represented structured military, and White Nick Fury, the original, was unstructured military. Because I read Nick Fury since he was with the Howling Commandos. I mean, we're talking, way back, and it was that grizzled, dirty soldier with the sleeves cut off. It was that ragtag group of, like almost Vietnam era type visual effects. Whereas Nick Fury Jr., the Ultimate Nick Fury, if you always look at him, he's always groomed and tight, and you know what I mean. He never looks like the 5 o'clock shadow of the other Nick Fury. There's just even visually the two of them. One is so clean cut and always just proper, and the other one is just more chaotic. And I just like how those two balance each other.
And the best part is both of those people were represented by actors. Like, they were both inspired by actors. Black Nick Fury was, inspired by Samuel Jackson. Mm-hmm. Thus, Samuel Jackson played him. Mm-hmm. Where White Nick Fury was actually kind of modeled after Sean Connery. Because, like, the grizzledness and how he acted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, the nonchalant, like, especially in the later stuff with White Nick Fury, where he's doing like really unnecessarily crazy stuff, like the James Bond movies. Like, he showed up to the villain while he was sleeping, punched him in the mouth, jumped out of a building, landed in his flying car, and then took off with his best friend to go seduce women at a bar later that night.
Good Sunday,
Yeah.
Because when you said about the Howling Commandos, I'm literally looking right next to where I picked out my Darkseid comics. Right behind them are my runs of Nick Fury, the Howling Commandos, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Nick Fury Jr. saga.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I keep all that on hand.
Yeah, because in 1963, Sean Connery was in the pinnacle of himself, and he was in his prime. It was because that 63 is when the original Nick Fury came out, so he was just definitely had that whole vibe, that kind of roguish, kind of like not like villainous rogue, more just like a roguish personality, that
the guy's gonna do whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the character I gravitate towards Marvel. Gambit is another character I gravitate towards.
Oh yeah, we love Gambit around here.
Yes, we do.
I'm trying to think of other Marvel characters I really like. Man, there's not a whole lot. Like, I'm okay with most of them. Almost all the X-Men, good stories, like them across the board. But like, I gravitate like Nick Fury.
Yeah,
I used to be big into Spider-Man for a while.
Mine are usually a little more like, I lean towards, like, I love the original Marvel, which is also funny with that in DC. Captain Marvel, and
and that whole debacle. Yeah,
that whole debacle. But the character of Marvel, I loved the original Captain Marvel. I just really a big fan of him. Nova, I'm a huge fan of Nova. The original Nova, not the new one's okay, but the kid's okay. But I like Richard Rider. I like Rich Rider the best.
Rich Rider with the Nova Corps, and pretty much the green. They're the Marvel version of the Green Lanterns.
Absolutely.
Ryan Reynolds.
But I liked him. I just like the character. He's even when he was with the New Warriors, when he was depowered and got his powers back, and found out he'd always had his powers. Just the character, I just really liked the whole. It's like you said, Marvel. I got to know the character so much.
Yeah,
Like I feel like it's almost like he's so well rounded. He becomes this robust character that I know so much about. Whereas you don't really get. That's what I like. Why I lean towards the Marvel characterizations more than DC. Because like take Clark Kent, take Superman. We know his history so much, but I don't really know much about like how his brain works. I know what he does with it, but his internalization, his like where he goes with it, when something's happening that's dire, what his emotions are with that. He handles it. Yeah. But I kind of want to know like his internal feelings more.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about Clark Kent and Superman as a whole is it's usually, you put on the costume and then you're that person. Like, you know what I mean? Like who you are and then you put on that costume to become that hero. Whereas Superman's the reverse. He puts on the Clark Kent thing as his mask to appear as a normal person. And he's very vanilla. Like that's always been the issue with Superman is he's not a very deep character as far as internal monologues or thought process because he was never written that way in the first place. He's supposed to be the epitome of good. So it's always the most cookie cutter Boy Scout answer to solve the problem.
Yeah,
it's fly super fast, save everyone from the bullets and explosions.
Yep, and there was supposed to be Pulp Fiction. That's he was designed to be that, like the consummate superhero, the guy, the hero.
Yeah, I think
always for good and justice, no matter what.
Yep.
I think the whole thing with around Superman is it's really just like when it comes down to it, Superman. It's more about the story that's being told versus the character and his internalization about it. It's more the stories. How does this wreck a good being with overwhelming power? What schemes have to happen? What situations? It almost feels it's more of a scenario versus the actual character having that.
That's just like John's completely correct with that because usually the side characters that make Superman stand out in any way. Like, if you just break Superman breaking up crime all the time, it's boring. They can't do nothing to him. So they give him characters like Darkseid, an eternal god that is, the embodiment of evil that Superman can't fully beat. But Superman can, periodically, put his plans to a halt for a while.
Yeah, and then like with Red Sun, where he kind of goes like dictator mode, like it shows what the extremes can do.
So there's a couple though. There's the Red Sun where he was instead of crashing in Kansas, he crashes in Russia, and he's raised to be Superman, but in Russia, and he becomes a super fascist. And brings peace to the world through super fascism. Which is sweet, which was really sweet because he talked Wonder Woman into joining him, so she started dating him because he's a super fascist, and she's like, "Screw it, I'm on board because now my people are getting their way." And then Batman was like Russian Batman, where he's like killing people and crippling people for life, like
the KGB Batman. That's a scary Batman right there.
It was almost like that arc was funny because he was kind of villainous in ignorance for a little while, and then he sees like Stalin is evil, etc. And he routes against him, and he's kind of like trying to like show fascism to be this ultimate solution, and Wonder Woman gets aboard, but then he starts like going like more like going down, and Wonder Woman starts being like, yeah, I'm gonna slowly back away from this.
Yeah,
tries to talk. It's
it's a sweet storyline.
It is. And they did a really good. That's another one. DC does animations just wonderfully. No comic does animations better than DC. It's
because Marvel tried it and they suck.
yeah, they did. It's Marvel movies, DC movies, Marvel or DC animation, Marvel animation. There's just a constant.
Yeah. There's a couple standouts, but most of the time, that's very accurate.
What really standouts does Marvel have for animation?
X-Men 97.
Yeah. Which was just a rehash of the already existing animation, just cleaned up. Where DC,
fair is fair. I mean that's
is a continuation. It's not a reboot. It's a continuation. Ooh. That story's growing. I mean,
it's only a year later.
That's true. It's still the same series, Kyle.
Yeah.
To be fair, but let's look at some of the other stuff. Like, I don't know, that new Spider-Man that came out on DC Plus, that one where Harry Osborn's a black dude.
Yeah, Marvel animation is awful. Yeah, it's awful, but there are standouts that exist. 97 is an example of,
and you have Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse. I know not everybody likes the animation style, but you can't argue, and it's not well animated.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it is very well. No, I won't argue that at all. It's very well animated.
Yeah, so
I think I agree with you.
A couple standouts there, yeah, for sure.
There's very few, but they have them. And I can't think of any bad. Well, that's not true. I can think of I didn't like that period piece DC did for I forget what they were called. They did like a 50s version of the Justice League. What was that one called? That one was weird. It was even animated odd. But that's like the one bad one that I've ever seen of DC's animations. But I've never seen them screw it up for the most part. They're just I just didn't like it. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't my vibe. I would even go so far as to say that it was well done. It just wasn't my vibe. I didn't like that. But DC
I agree with you. Like I'm trying to think about what you're thinking. I'm gonna look into it because now I'm trying to remember what it is. But like you said, DC's hardly had any bad animations.
Yeah.
I think one of the most touchy ones I would say is the first Bat Ninja movie was a little bit rough at parts. It was a little clunky with their 3D animation.
Yeah. For live action stuff though, I really liked Doom Patrol. I thought Doom Patrol was amazing in DC. Watching the show made me want to. I want to get into the comic books for Doom Patrol. Actually,
I wish that had gotten more following because it was entertaining.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser was awesome on there. I loved him.
It's really good. They're great.
The unfortunate part is it was coming off the back of the Teen Titans show. And that's
the animation I couldn't get behind. The funny one, the goofy one with the sprites.
Yeah, the live action one where Starfire was some black chick that worked the streets.
Yeah, well, it looked like she did anyway.
Well, she did. Like part of it was she was like a prostitute for a while.
That's awful.
I'm like, what? She's supposed to be some alien chick from another planet who's genetically hot. That's her whole shtick. Is Tamaranians are just genetically hotter than everybody else for no reason other than they can be. Like the guy who animated even said, he goes, I just wanted to create a hot orange chick that shot lasers out of her eyes. Okay. Live your truth, buddy. Live your truth.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
Yeah, that in the whole Robin got horrible PTSD from his time with Batman, and he's struggling with doing right and being hyper violent. It was really just crap.
Batman, the worst parent in the world. Just this anxious dad who takes his kid out to solve crime.
That was supposed to be Dick Grayson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's the problem. Is Dick Grayson did have like a bunch of issues with Batman, but not like PTSD, like overbearing sergeant thing, like Full Metal Jacket. It was more like Batman's an asshole, so I'm just gonna go off and do my own thing, and I still want to be a superhero. I just don't want to deal with him no more.
Yeah,
It was more
the Dick Grayson Bruce Wayne dynamic in comics, because they still care for each other. They have respect. It's just not the way the two of them. They just want to do their own things differently. Like it's kind of like
get out of the shadow.
Yeah,
you want to be out of the shadow of the Batman, and you want to strike it out on his own. Where Batman's like, no, you're my little boy, and you don't know what you're doing yet. Yeah. Daddy's still going to drive the car.
As Nightwing, that Nightwing could be, at least is one of my favorite DC properties. I love Nightwing. I've liked him because I'm a big Titans fan. I love the Teen Titans. That's why I didn't like that weird comedic version of the animated show.
Oh, Teen Titans Go.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it for what it was. Enjoyed it for what it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another instance. It just wasn't my thing. I'm not saying I don't think it was bad. It just I just like the Titans. It just I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I grew up with the original Titans as well.
Yeah, they're just great.
Yeah, so. It was one of those shows that was way too good for its time. God, I want to go back to being a kid now.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So.
Oh man. All right. Well, do we have any? Do we have anything else on Darkseid or?
Well, we have another 5 hours.
There's a lot. There's a lot to go in the woods with him, and that's
true.
That's what I wanted to avoid when I was like thinking about this. Like, because if I get into the woods and go into all these storylines, they're awesome, but at the same time, that it literally serves no purpose to read the stories.
Yeah, yeah. You know about the character and what makes him tick, right?
I've given out some spoilers, but there's enough that I left out that there's enough to read into. Like, oh, this is sweet. Why is this happening? Or I never try to fully spoil unless it's really terrible.
Fair.
It's a good practice.
Yes.
Cool.
I mean, let me go over some of my notes real quick. See if there's anything I missed.
Oh, there's another bad one. Was Gotham Knights. Oh,
Gotham Knights.
Oh God,
so terrible.
Do you remember the 2000s Bird of Prey stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh, it
was awful.
It was so terrible.
A bunch of hot chicks who can't act.
I know they were. That was the worst. Like some of the worst acting ever. But that was during that time TV. There was a lot of that. Like, just throw pretty out there and hope that it carries the show.
Yeah. Looks hot in this black leather. Hopefully we make money.
Yeah. The girl who played the one girl in that ended up being a halfway decent actress, though. She ended up back in DC. What was it? What was the show, or what was that? Was it? Oh, I can't remember which one it was. Was it Rachel Scarsden? Yeah, Rachel Scarsden.
Okay.
She ended up coming back and playing some. Oh, she played the villain in the Batwoman series, the kind of the Arrowverse adjacent Batwoman series that was out for a bit.
Yeah.
And her character in that was like Batwoman's kind of psychotic because she'd gotten kidnapped as a kid, and she'd gotten released and became this villainous kind of like schizophrenic character, and she did a really good job. It was a neat character. It was the best character in the show. Honestly, most of the characters in that show were not great, and she was.
Let's just be honest. DC has a really bad habit of hiring really good actors and actresses for their movies. I mean, for their shows, and then just a bunch of idiots for their movies.
Yeah, I don't get there.
You know, like
Gunn can do something with it. We'll see.
Yeah, like what's his face from The Flash?
Ezra
Miller.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh, crazy ass Ezra Miller, kidnapping women and their kids and making them or whatever he did.
Oh my gosh. And
Isn't
I
it
like
hard
the
to
Flash.
admit-
It feels so bad having Ezra Miller as the representation of that character.
It would
Let's just keep Grant.
Yeah, get us
So,
Grant. Grant Gustin. We
And
need
just
him.
give us Grant.
Yep.
he would do better. What are we doing?
I don't understand that whole dynamic. Like, hey, we got something really cool over here. We don't want to put it over there at all. Like, why
Yeah.
not? Like,
We have this guy who actually acts like Barry Allen, kind of looks like Barry Allen. We're going to sign it over to Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
In between kidnappings.
in between kidnappings.
In
yeah.
between.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Didn't he he kidnapped a lady and her kid, and then he beat him and then made him watch him make sandwiches or something crazy?
It just, I don't know.
Crazy stuff. You know, they probably didn't want to change the Flash actor because they would have had to do another origin story for the Flash.
We'll just stop with origin stories. We all know.
That I think that's so much of DC. It feels like it's just we're gonna jump into the origin story for the movie.
Yeah.
Every time, the origin movie, and then one movie after that, and then that fails, and then they wipe the board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at Wonder Woman. We had the Wonder Woman movie, which was really good, the first one.
Excellent.
Then we had 88, which was a travesty.
True.
Now they're wiping the board with that.
And she was the best part to me in Batman versus Superman.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, she was the best part of that whole movie. She was great.
Because that movie didn't make sense in the first place.
Yep. And if I watched Bruce Wayne walk through the field next to a broken down Wayne Manor one more minute of my life, I swear to God, I'm gonna.
I was more obsessed with the fact that he's like, I want to kill Superman because if I die, no one can stop him. Now I'm going to do CrossFit to be able to beat up a guy who can throw planets. And then you have Superman goes, I feel bad for saving people.
But at least their moms have the same name. I mean, that's
something.
I mean,
But at least one of them still has their mom.
That's actually comic book accurate, but it's still stupid.
That's the whole, the idea that that's what they bond over, that they find their common ground because their mom has some generic name that their other mom happens to have.
I was also mad that they wasted Doomsday.
Yeah.
He's just a genetic revived version of Zod. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And then he looks like a troll from Lord of the Rings for the first 20 minutes.
Oh man.
I'm cautiously optimistic about James Gunn doing something good with Superman.
If anyone can do it, it's James Gunn, I think.
I'm 50-50 on it.
Ooh.
Because I like Superman's costume. I like a lot of the things that they're doing. But I'm really falling short on everyone else's costume except for Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific's costume is actually spot on for what he is in all the comic books.
Yep.
It's number one, Guy Gardner. He's not green enough. He shouldn't be wearing a white and black suit. He should be wearing a bright green suit.
Yeah, and they changed it, though. I've seen him in the green suit. I think what they've done, I saw him in the first cameo when he's walking through that bank. He's got the green suit on. I think they're trying to give that the Justice League is going to form in this movie and they're giving them all some kind of uniform.
Okay. Well, they need to get rid of that uniform because it just white and black sucks for Green Lantern and Hawkgirl.
Yeah, I agree because I've seen them both in their original costumes that were more comic book accurate. So I think they're doing the uniform thing, and again, that's something I hate when they do in comics anyway. The original X-Men movies. Why do we need this uniform? They're not a military group. They're not a policing group. A group of superheroes. Let them be individuals that are working together rather than this unique
unit task force of weird ability people.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that whole dynamic. So we'll see. Maybe Superman will end up with a white costume and red and blue trim.
Listen, first of all, he had that once when he died and came back.
I know. That's what I was talking about. His
it was awful.
His electric Superman costume.
Yeah.
Superman 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Listen,
That was almost the version of Superman that Nick Cage was going to play, was the blue and glow.
Oh, boy.
I wish
Nick Cage is
we would have got that. I wish we
Yeah.
would have got that.
Okay. I'm a huge Nick Cage fan, but I don't know.
It could still happen. Who knows? Nick Cage is still making movies.
Every movie he can, because he's trying to make money after all that debacle he went through.
Yep.
After he lost it all, paying off his debts.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they throw shit on the wall, and Nick Cage is like, "I'll play that turd."
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. Would you rather see a Martian Manhunter movie or a series?
Oh,
If they were going to make one.
I'd probably say movie.
it would really depend on what they were going to do. If they were going to do, like, because he's such a character that's not mainstream to your common movie audience, if they're going to do an origin, I'd like to see a movie, because I would love to see the fall of Mars. I would love to see the White Martian, Green Martian War. I'd love to see that entire dynamic. That would be great. But if they're doing him as after he's come to Earth, and they're going to do little flashbacks to the war as an origin here and there, then I'd rather see that episodic in a series.
And that's kind of where I'm at with it. Because I'd like to see it as more like, because in the original comic books, he was more of a gritty detective looking guy, because that's where, when he first came to Earth, that's the first image he saw. So he created his original personality based off a detective story he read, like a noir. So I'd love to see it to be like a noir detective story, where he does Martian Manhunter crap, like as he's doing detective stuff.
Yeah, he's another great character that doesn't get enough play. Although I thought they did a pretty good job with him in Supergirl. I really liked the characterization of him in Supergirl. I thought he was a great character and done well.
Fortunately, he's got the same dilemma as Superman. He's actually vastly more powerful than Superman.
He people don't realize how powerful a Manhunter is.
He's as physically strong as Superman. He can do everything Superman can do. Plus, he's got telepathy, shape-shifting, the ability to phase through objects.
Yeah.
He's only got two, and they gave him two weaknesses, and then he's technically over the one weakness.
His fire fear.
Yeah, because he learned to like meditate through it, so he's no longer affected by that. So then they just made him super weak to Oreos.
Right. It's
because most of the time, like, they realized how powerful he was in the comic book, so they wrote a story where he started eating Oreos, and he loved them so much, like he would literally go to Earth, steal a truck full of Oreos, and then he's sitting on the moon on a throne of Oreos eating Oreos.
I would do if I could do that.
If they were going to do a series, I would really hope that they incorporate McGann in the series, Miss Martian in the series, because I love that she's secretly a white Martian living as a green Martian, trying to balance out that whole dynamic. There's a lot of cool stuff to that.
Yeah,
I'm playing a dude, playing another dude, playing a dude.
Like a series, like a second season. Like the first season should be like him dealing with slightly superpowered people as the Martian Manhunter, and then like there's always like a lot of fire involved, because if there's not, it's just him just destroying everybody instantly.
Yeah, for sure.
He doesn't have the qualms about killing people like Superman does.
No,
he lobotomizes way too many people.
Yeah, he's from a war-torn world.
Yeah, I got
people lost. It makes you a little hard.
I mean, like his first move every time is either turn your brain off with his telepathy, or he'll phase his hand inside your brain, and scramble it up a little bit.
Oh, he's got the Flash thing too.
Yeah,
it is better than the Flash thing, because he just does it. He just does it. He doesn't have to like speed himself up or accidentally accidentally open up the Speed Force and get sucked in. He can just do it because he feels like it.
Yep. Yeah, Manhunter's a great character. I'd love to see more of him for sure. Yeah. There's a lot out there. I'm hoping that, like I said, James Gunn does a good job with DC. I hope he takes it. I hope he doesn't So something that James Gunn is capable of that I hope he does, and is he can get a little too slapsticky. He can get a little too comedic, lean into the comedy of it a bit much. I felt like that was the general slope of Guardians of the Galaxy. He got a little too comedic at times, which kind of ruined the. I like the lore of the heroes. I don't mind some comedy involvement, but let's not make it a comedy. So hopefully he can keep that level, that balance when he's going into the DC world and does it right. So
Yeah. And
I think DC needs somebody a little bit more on the comedy side to do some of their projects, because
we need to get rid of the Murderverse. There's no two ways about it. But,
the problem with DC is they decided, they're like, oh, Marvel's killing it with the Marvel universe. We need to make our own universe. And then they tried to, shove it down everyone's throats really fast. Really, really fast.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. The reason why Marvel worked is it had that time to build. It took the time to build.
Mm-hmm.
So it went Iron Man, and then it jumped into like Captain America and Thor.
Yep.
Like where we were like Batman, Superman, Justice League immediately. Bam. 3 years. Yep. Too fast. Way too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were obviously playing catch up, and they played it like they were playing catch up.
And they shouldn't have. They should have just said, because here's the thing: if they were smart, they would have been in a spot right now where, because the Marvel movies are dipping in quality so much, they would have been about the same time as the Infinity War happened. So as Marvel's killing themselves with their stuff, they would have been on the uptick of what they're doing, and it would have, been their window of opportunity.
I agree, because now what they're doing is now Marvel's catching back up and figuring it out with the like Wolverine and Deadpool and that type of thing. I think
they're figuring it out. They hit one movie at a time. They hit one movie every 3 years that's good, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, no, they're not.
I think with coming along with the whole Doom line and throwing away the whole thing, coming along with the Doom line, the way they're doing the Fantastic Four and the bringing the Fantastic Four in, I think all of that's going to circle into the big story again in a pacing that's more like their original magic.
The whole Kang the Conqueror the Conqueror arc kind of fizzling out with the Jonathan Majors controversy, like that really screwed up their storytelling, and then COVID too. Like things kind of took a turn there.
I think the controversy with Myers saved Marvel's movies, because I think the whole way they were going with the whole Kang thing was garbage. I just hate it.
Yeah, it was already garbage in the first place because the Marvel started getting lost in their bullshit.
Yep.
They're like, first of all, like Ant-Man and the Wasp was a terrible movie.
Yes, it was.
Captain Marvel was a bad movie. It just they just moved. Black Widow was a bad movie.
I didn't mind the Black Widow as much as the first two, but I didn't like some of the characterizations in it. But yeah,
let's just both be in the right and say we're mad that they did Taskmaster dirty.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yes,
twice. They just did a real bad in
Thunderbolts.
Yeah, they did.
I was actually okay with them doing the way they did it in Thunderbolts, because that means they just got rid of her and they don't have to talk about it no more.
That's good. Right. That's good. And because there's another one like Thunderbolts. I really enjoyed Thunderbolts.
Panther 2 was not good.
No, I think it would have been, but
listen, it had no reason to be bad, but they decided to do a bunch of really bad things.
Yeah.
Number one, bringing Riri Williams into anything. Nobody likes Riri Williams. She's a crappy character who just was poorly written. Her motivation's very poor in the comic books.
Mm.
She's just some selfish, African-American kid who's super smart for no reason. And she decided to steal a bunch of Iron Man's tech and then use it to get Twitter followers. Like, that was her whole shtick. And she just stole all Iron Man's crap and used it. And I don't like her as a character. That's why they brought back Iron Man, and now he's dating Emma Frost. He's actually married to her in the comic books right now.
Yeah.
But, like, she's a terrible character. Now, Chadwick Boseman dying, that was huge.
Yeah.
And then they decide to make his sister the Black Panther, which I was okay with because she's a good actress. She was excellent in all the other movies. Excuse me. Where I felt she fell off was her motivation.
What motivation?
She's like, oh, I'm dark and brooding because my brother died of a disease that had nothing to do with anything. So now I want to take revenge on Namor, who literally, I mean, yeah, he kind of sparked that by almost killing her mom.
I mean, you can't expect much out of Namor, though. Like, that's just average behavior for him.
But the problem is also how they did Namor. The guy they chose to do Namor, first of all, he needs to do push-ups.
Yeah, I mean, Namor's a specimen. You know what I mean? It's like
I didn't mind him too much, like the design, like using the Aztec design as a way to. So that was fine. I can get behind that. But to have a dad bod Namor, a guy who's never, you can tell he never does. Like, in some of those shots, he had a bunch of paunch on his sides, like the old side dad fat. And then you could tell when they CGI'd muscles on him.
Yeah, it's not good.
And then they didn't do it in another scene, so it threw everything off.
Yeah, and I also have a problem with him. Like, I understand why they didn't want to do it, but so what that you have another series of comics that uses Atlantis. Atlantis is a mythos for everyone.
Yeah, everyone's got it.
Everyone has Atlantis. Nobody has the rights to Atlantis. So just do Atlantis. Do it different. It's your Atlantis. Just like it's your, whatever. You're this, you're that, you're Zeus, you're...
Yeah, no one complained.
Yeah, I just...
But then, like, his sister's, like, over-the-top motivation. Oh, I'm gonna summon the spirit of Killmonger because I'm mad. Like, no. Hell no. That's stupid.
Yep. Yeah, it is. They said they were really bad. I said I'm really optimistic about their new pathing because...
Yeah, well,
the
Ironheart series is going to fail. Let's just be honest.
We'll see what happens.
Maybe they'll save Riri.
I mean, I get part of it. They're trying to reach out to a younger demographic too. So I don't know. Maybe it'll get them buy them some fans for some other properties, but who knows?
Because here's the thing. Nobody liked. Listen, like, let's just, like, how they did Black Panther 1 was fine. It was great. 100% great movie. First one, amazing. 100% way through. This is one of those times where they're doing a reach out to be like, hey, you kids like this, like, here's this guy with attitude and a skateboard. Now it's, here's this young girl who likes Twitter and Twitch, and she's black, so she does some dances. And she controls a military-grade power suit for no reason.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's bad. It's patronizing. It's patronizing.
Yep.
Fair enough.
And John, you've heard me talk about this. You know I hate when they pander.
I mean,
it ruins the art.
They're trying to get a certain audience. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to make your property marketable.
You're right, though. When their pursuit of an audience supersedes the story, they lose everything.
Yeah,
True.
That's the problem.
And he's very much right, because every time they've done that shit, those movies have backfired.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's when they buckle down and go, hey, this is how comic books did it. Yeah, there's not enough, demographically broad people. There's not enough people or women, like, or whatever. But they've always done well. And if they're that, like, and this is why I get mad, if they're that if they want to do diversity and inclusion, the Marvel Universe is big enough and has enough great characters to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to force some things, they need to pull themselves back and go, well, this didn't work, so maybe we should find somebody else.
Yep.
But they don't do that. They just go full steam ahead.
They do. And that's actually why I'm kind of happy that they're bringing back the Netflix characters. As much as I hated Iron Fist, because I'm a huge Iron Fist fan, and that again, you talk about dad, but we have this little scrawny, big-headed dude. I can't even with Iron Fist.
Listen, so hard the first fight between Nick Cage and Iron Fist when he wound up that punch for like a good solid 9 seconds.
I can't.
It was bad. It
was. But Power Man, fantastic. I loved their version of him. I liked the actor. I liked how he acted. I read the original, all the original Power Man comics, and that was exactly how that character was. He was grounded. He didn't necessarily like being a hero or wanting to be, but he kind of did. And sometimes he did shit. He really wasn't all that heroic. I really liked that. And the damaged Jessica Jones, I really liked that. After the whole Purple Man thing, that was fantastic. I really liked those characters.
I liked season 1 of Jessica Jones with Purple Man, and then some of season 2 when she kept imagining him being around and her still being crazy about that. That was fine. It was the storylines of seasons 2 and 3 that were not good. It's my mother who has the same powers as me, and now she's just extra crazy about it, though.
Yeah, I don't know why they throw that shit in there. I really don't.
And then my best friend can't stop doing drugs.
And why not
learned a lesson for all of a day?
And why not make her actually become Hellcat? Why not do that? She's Hellcat, and I can see this person wanting to try. She would like that. Her trying to become vigilante and stuff like that. Just make her Hellcat. Hellcat's a great character. Make her Hellcat. Hellcat and Damon Hellstrom. I won't even talk about that debauchery of a show, but in the comics, they're fucking great. The Defenders, the original Defenders with Damon and Hellcat and all the characters, they had a lot of potential to do great things there. And
but if they were going to do the original Defenders, it was going to be a really short TV series because it would have been Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And that would have been it. That's all you needed.
Yeah, we just throw in there's, I don't know, but I'm just really glad they're bringing those characters back because I liked the characterizations. I liked the way that they embodied the comic book character. They did that right.
I love Charlie Cox's Deadpool. Love him. He's great.
Yeah, John Bernthal is a great Punisher.
Absolutely.
Now, the latest season of Daredevil was not as good as the first.
I liked it.
See, I thought it was better than the first go around of Daredevil.
Oh, I don't know that I liked it better, but I do.
I didn't think it was bad, but it definitely wasn't as good as the first couple seasons of Daredevil. We can exclude the hand stuff because the hand always kind of sucks. They're a wavy hand organization. But the reason why I didn't like this one as much is it was falling prey to what kills a lot of the Marvel series right now. A lot more overly emotional. They were giving up more emotional stuff than just being superheroes. Like Matt Murdock being all crazy about Foggy Nelson makes sense, fine. But then they were going into whatever this guy. What was the serial killer's name again?
Bullseye.
Bullseye.
No. The art guy.
The guy that was serial killing people.
Oh, Muse.
Muse. Muse.
Yeah, that crap load of a character that was created in the last 5-6 years.
You don't like Muse?
I liked Muse.
I don't because it's just another psycho serial killer character.
All right, fair enough. I kind of get that.
They wanted to do that with Cletus Cassidy, who's way better.
Yeah,
But
they do have. I guess Muse is a lot different in the comic books though than he is
a lot
from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
the brooding, kind of almost mentally unstable Matt Murdock is Daredevil, though.
yeah.
That's in the comics. That has always been Daredevil. So I like to see that reflected when he's not sure how hard he should go, or he's. I mean, that's just how he's been. That the emotional breakdowns. He's always been about not being emotionally stable. So I thought they did a really good job of representing that in the new series.
I think they dragged it out. I think my problem is they dragged it out for way too long.
I think they took too long to put him in the suit in the TV series, but overall,
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I really liked
long
it.
to put him in the suit. Too long to have Kingpin just be Kingpin. Like the whole he's trying to do the right thing, but then he's failing at doing that. Like
Kingpin.
too much trying to circle the drain before getting to the point is, I guess, what I was having with.
Well,
Okay.
and I think the rates they feel long-winded. I think is almost the feel. The whole thing feels like long-winded. Like we could have had less time with the same content, and it would have been better. But that's a problem for me, because I feel like these shows are doing that, where they're instead of creating a more robust story, they're just stretching out the story, and that bothers me. I don't like when that happens.
I think in some ways it adds more emotional depth to the character, though, when you have these television series like this, because you spend more time with that character as just like a human person. So while I do kind of understand, like, I think you could be right that they could have shortened it down. Heck, they could have made it, like a 2-part movie even, right? And maybe used more with the budget. But these city-level superheroes, they don't need a huge budget to tell a good story. So why not make it a really good television series,
Which I'm not going to disagree with you there, but I think me and him are getting to the same point, is they were stretching out parts of the story that, number one, had no real significance or didn't need to be that long. Like, stretching out the whole fact that Kingpin had his wife's lover locked in a basement. That went on for what? Till the next to last episode?
Yeah, and I was like, we're just watching an episode of You at this point.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
John, you are right. Like the series allow us to expand on the characters, but the problem is they're focusing on like slight emotional things for way too long. There shouldn't be 7 or 8 episodes of like Kingpin dwelling on, his wife's lover. Like one episode where they're trying to work it out, and you find out he's got him locked in the basement, torturing him. Then he brings in an axe to fight him and beats the piss out of the guy. And then the next episode is where he goes to his wife, and then they end up killing him because she's not actually in love with him. It was just something to do while Fitz was away.
Yeah. And I like the amount of time we're spending with the characters. I just think that time we spend with them should be more productive.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what I was looking for. There was not enough productive stuff with these characters.
Yeah. When I say shorter, it's because with the content that they were willing to offer, it should have been shorter. But I don't want it to be shorter. I like it that length. I just want that length to be more productive.
Yeah,
to have more content.
Like a lot of them, like the Netflix shows near the end, they started dwelling on certain stories. Like Iron Fist, perfectly. How long did we dwell on the chick's brother being a drug addict and stuff like that? Wasn't productive. It just was there to be melodramatic and serve no purpose.
The only thing good about the Iron Fist series was Colleen Wing.
Yeah,
it's the only thing good about that series. So, yeah.
So I think that's where we're coming from, John. We're not saying like the show's bad, but they wasted a lot of airtime money for melodramatics that served no real purpose for the story because they wanted to stretch it out to force a season 2.
I get what you're saying. I don't think it's as egregious as you might, but I do. I think I get your perspective.
I don't mind cliffhangers. I never have.
Yeah.
But they have to be done right. A bad cliffhanger is Wilson Fisk's back in power, and Daredevil's going to go to war, kind of, and Punisher's going to get out. That's a bad cliffhanger. The better cliffhanger would be like, I don't know, someone important died and left it there. Like, the story's contained, then something happened to help set it up instead of stopping a story halfway through and say, wait till the next season to see the rest of this one story.
Well, I hate that shit in general.
Yeah, it makes the first season seem like a preamble instead of its own self-contained story.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what they did with Daredevil.
Build up. So all we did was watch one long preview.
Yeah,
of what's really going to happen.
Your story coming, and I can see that. I feel that. I feel that.
That's getting really common in these streaming services too, though, because they're making these 8 Last of Us, that was only 7 episodes, right? So they're doing partial seasons, right? And then they're releasing the next partial season. They give it a couple months. Maybe there's a delay here and there. You're still paying for your subscription, so they'll just keep it riding.
Correct. The way they did Last of Us was correct because they ended it exactly where the game ended it, which was a self-contained story where Joel took her there, and because he was dealing with all the trauma of his daughter dying, he used Ellie as a proxy for her.
Yeah.
At the moment that she was going to deal with all that stuff, he did what he was going to do, and then they ended it on that's a perfect segue story.
I get why they did it like that, but what I guess I'm saying though is it's a trend with these streaming services that they do these mid-season things. Because Last of Us, I think they even said that this is like a half season, right? And then the rest of the season it's going to release later. But
in the second season,
or the third season.
Listen, the second season, just like the second game, is not good. Like, they're relying on a lot of really patronizing and terrible ideas to carry a story.
I don't know. I like The Last of Us. I think it's good.
Yeah, I like the second season, but I wish they would have gone longer with it.
I have not been impressed by anything I've seen, but
also didn't play the game, so
that's fine. Like that's I guess that is part of the reason why you can come at it with more faith in humanity.
All right, Kyle definitely doesn't like this show. Okay, all right. Fair.
It's not that I don't like, because here's the thing. Pedro Pascal was great. And the first season he did a wonderful job, and but once they got to the point in the second season, you could tell he was really carrying the chick who played Abby. He was really carrying her. Because now that she's left on her own, she doesn't quite have the acting chops to keep it going. There was a lot of failures with some episodes, and her emoting and some of her lines. And whoever wrote some of her lines needs punched in the face really hard. Because I can tell some of those lines are not just her. Like, she needs to be punched in the face for how she acted in some of those scenes. Whoever wrote those scenes needs their hands chopped off.
How do you feel about this?
Yeah, tell me how you really feel, right? No, because here's the thing: the second game wasn't much better. The actual game had a lot of flaws with it too.
Okay,
but it's just the second game was still mostly written better than the show is, because they're kind of jumping off with things like they're trying to fix what went wrong with the game with the show, and they're not fixing the right parts.
Okay.
Like, they're saying, oh, this was a problem with the last game. We're going to fix this over here that has nothing to do with anything.
Okay. So they're fixing the wrong stuff.
Exactly.
Okay. Damn, we could have gotten a better version of Last of Us. Those bastards.
And also, potato face there.
Oh, be nice. Be nice.
Listen, John, I don't... Oh, yeah, you weren't around for this. when we saw the first season, did you ever see the movie Mask?
No.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey's
not the
Mask.
Mask.
The kid with a deformed face, played by what the hell's that redhead's name?
I was about to
I
be
love this
really
guy.
mean.
He knows all the stuff I'm talking about. While John lived in a closet and never touched grass. No,
Hey,
but,
we said you weren't going to talk about my childhood, okay?
Eric Stoltz. I couldn't think of his name, but Eric Stoltz played the kid in Mask. Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought she looked like the kid in Mask. Like facial structure. She's beautiful on the inside.
Oh, ouch.
Listen, I actually didn't mind her. Like the first season, I thought she was really good, but then I started seeing what's going on second season, and I think, like I said, I think Pedro Pascal kind of carried her a lot, and now that she's left to run on her own, she's number one, taking bad direction from like
directors
and writers. She's taking bad direction, and then she's also giving herself bad publicity by, just trying to say some of the stuff she said and triggering the assholes that want to say mean things.
I think those assholes just exist.
They do, but there's, you know what I mean? If you know that there's people going to be assholes, you don't go over there and say things to trigger them to make sure they're assholes. I mean, yes. Most of the time
you can. If somebody's going to be an asshole,
no matter what.
Let them be assholes,
I just think it's the difference between being notorious and trying to be notorious. Like some people are just naturally notorious. They attain notoriety by who they are. But the pursuit of notoriety is often awkward and feels forced. It has that try hard feel to it.
Yes.
And something gets lost in that when it happens. And I think sometimes that she comes off as doing it. She wants to have this, this role, this relevant, that's notorious. She wants to be that, and she's pursuing it.
Steps of Rachel Zegler and them, and try to make herself notorious and make herself known.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, this is my craft. I'm going to be excellent at my craft, and I will get the notoriety from being excellent at my craft. Where she goes, I'm going to put in a mediocre effort and talk a bunch of shit.
So I guess I don't know enough about the controversy. I'm being a little argumentative, maybe just to be argumentative. But
yeah, because it's me, John.
But I don't think any of her actions would have changed the Buzz Lightyear memes that went up on Facebook.
The Buzz Lightyear, the potatoes, them putting her face on MODOK.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, I've seen them all, and I've laughed harder at each one I've seen. Like I said, whoever gave her that line, "I'm going to be a dad," needs kicked square in the forehead.
Oh, that's just a fun thing.
Talk to me where it's fun, John.
Because the heteronormative couple, she would be the dad. So she's making a joke.
Okay.
They're kids that did not experience any kind of culture. They were just taken into this nightmare world. Sure, they're going to compare it to real life. I don't think that's bad writing.
I think it's bad writing in the fact of there's something they could have did better with that. Like, I can't tell you exactly how, but there's a way that they could have put that in a better context where it didn't sound as forced. And
I think people just try and make it sound like it's forced because they have different agendas.
Oh, yeah, John, me and my different agendas.
Well, no, not you, Kyle, but I'm saying in general, like, people point that shit out for the wrong reasons,
I know they do. And I'm not agreeing with them, but I'm agreeing just on the pure art aspect and how just badly that line felt in that moment.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And I think the best, like my way of looking at it is that I feel like interactions like that interaction in the movie should feel normal because it is normal. It's a normal thing. It doesn't matter that it's two girls, two guys, guy, girl, whatever. It should feel normal because it's normal to them. It shouldn't feel like it's being pointed out by the show.
Yeah, regardless if somebody's acting well, it should feel like it's coming from that character.
It should feel integral to the moment, and it should feel like it's just a natural part of the show. Instead, it stands out like we're saying this. Like it's stop putting a spotlight on something that, because putting a spotlight, it almost emphasizes difference.
Yeah,
stop doing.
I don't know. I'll have to rewatch the scene. I'm curious to see if I pick up the same thing, because it didn't stand out like that to me at all.
Yeah, no,
it didn't that scene like specifically. But I know what you mean. I get the.
But I just wish that people would just let that. If you show different kinds of lives, everybody, it's all. If you just show that as a normal life, and people are just having normal interactions like any two people would have, it feels less different. So, because that's what I always hate. I always hate this emphasis on difference. By trying to integrate, by putting an emphasis on different, is fucking ignorant. I just hate it. I hate that. So
that guy's got it. He's saying exactly in the way I can never say it because I sound like a douchebag most of the time. No, but you're right. Like, let's look at season 1. Like, we'll just talk about that real quick. Season 1, where they had the episode with the guy who was a recluse.
Oh, yeah.
How they handled that was perfect. It didn't feel clunky. It felt like everything was perfect. It was actually one of my favorite episodes of that season.
Yeah,
it's a great
because it gave the backstory of that character, and it made it so touching and so like believable that these two people were living a life together, and one guy was just so distrained and against humanity, where this other person brought him back into humanity, gave him a reason to live, gave him a reason to feel and have trust and open up and have a reason to live.
And they were
that was a beautiful episode from start to finish, and it was done correctly. None of it felt dropped. It was handled in a believable, loving way, in every way right. Now we have this. I'm gonna be a dad.
All right, I'm gonna have to rewatch the scene so I can watch her say, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be a dad."
But I'm serious. When you do rewatch the season 2. Watch how she acts in that one.
I'll rewatch that part
one
of it.
Episode.
Yep.
Just watch that one episode from season 1, and you'll just see the.
Oh, and I know the season 1 episode. It's one of the best. I've said before, it's one of the best episodes of television. Just period. It's really good.
Television.
You can, but just see the difference. You can.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not expecting her to be the best actor in the world. She's still young. She's still learning how to act. I didn't get the same thing you got out of the scene you're talking about. So I'll have to rewatch it.
I'm better and jaded.
What's that?
I said I'm better and jaded. So
fair enough. Oh man.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I said, it didn't necessarily stand out to me when I was watching it.
Yeah.
But having a conversation about it and starting to bring in comparison and thinking about it, it's absolutely right. You can't even compare that to the first season episode. That's how things should always be represented on television.
Yeah.
As just two people. That's it. Two people doing normal shit that they do on a day-to-day basis.
And believable. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's believable. It's believable because they're just two people.
Yes. What they're doing with Ellie is like, check this out, guys. Like,
yeah.
I don't believe you're in love right now. I believe you're just trying to say you're in love, and I'm just not feeling it. Like, there's no.
Yeah.
I actually feel more compassion or emotion rather from Dina. I actually feel like she's the one who's more in love
Yeah,
Probably. Yeah. That makes sense.
This is what I said. Like I said, Pedro Pascal carried what's her face. I can't think of her name to save my life.
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey, yeah.
Bella Ramsey. He carried her, and you can see that in her acting ability. Like, he carried her through season 1. Now she's left to be the main character, and she doesn't have the acting chops to do it. So then her girlfriend, who's supposed to be a side character, is more emotionally there because she's got the acting chops.
Is any degree of this that character is pretty emotionally devoid, and so the actor's trying to display that on camera?
No.
Okay, well, fair enough.
There's some possibility to her, at least that being her goal to portray it like that, because I've seen her in other material. Like, I liked her in Game of Thrones. I thought she did a really good job in that. And so, like, when she's the head of one of the houses, but I thought she did a good job in there. So it is possible that she is pursuing this person who's trying to have this stoicism that she has, this where you almost can't connect with her, because I can't connect with her. I have a hard time connecting with her. I like the show a lot, but I can't connect with her.
Yeah.
And I think that's that might be her goal, but I don't know. That's a good point.
So other than John, have any of you guys played the second game at all?
I haven't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So Ellie in the second game, she didn't have stoicism like this, how this season is. She was more just pretty much embroiled rage.
Yeah, rage was absolutely accurate.
Rage, violence, and a focused goal. This one is more like how she's portraying it is not correct. Because like her wanting to take revenge makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, but how she's portraying it is so off that it's just like, I'm doing all this, but revenge is kind of part of my goal. Where it was Ellie's on a vendetta and she's going to go do all this, hell or high water, and her girlfriend cares about her enough to tag along.
Yeah.
And like there was still emotion, love there, but she was like, you need to go back because you're knocked up and you can't fight. I need to do this.
Yep.
Not this weird Susie Homemaker side lines.
Yeah.
Like if they would have left it where Ellie's like, yo, get the F out. And she's like, no, I love you and I'm trying to stick by you. That I would have been okay with that. That probably would have gelled with me a lot more. Because that's believable. Like, sometimes the wife sticks around while, the significant other goes on a really bad plan.
Yep.
But they didn't do that. It was kind of like, let's go! Like,
they're dumb teenage girls.
Yeah.
Yep, turns out. All right, nerds. Well,
yeah.
I think that's quite the episode, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
I agree.
It was a hell of a spinoff.
Yeah. How about it?
The one good thing I liked about Kyle being here is throughout, a lot of us have the same loves and passions, and he brought into like something I wasn't familiar with, and he brought a little debate in. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
I thought it worked very well for this.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, because like a lot of the stuff that we talked about, it forced me to reevaluate something that I watched. I watched speedily because I was kind of wanted to get through the story, so I was kind of just which speaks to the difference between season 1 and season 2 because I was watching through it so speedily, just trying to get through to the story in the second season. But kind of the conversation forced me to reevaluate it and think about things in comparison and see it in a little bit broader light.
It's like meeting a chick at the bar in reverse. You went into it drunk, and the drink started wearing off as the night went on, and you're starting to see the the cracks and the bad makeup and the age.
Which is good debate should always do that. Good debate should always be enlightening. It should always be allowing in points of view so that you can look through someone else's eyes and see that point of view, and then you decide whether or not you embrace it or you don't embrace it, or if you want to modify it to yourself. That's what good debate does. It isn't this hate-filled diatribe that most fucking people have now, which is kind of gross.
Yeah. So. And here's the thing. Like, and I like how you explain a lot of things because you put such elegance on my thoughts. Well, I'm just talking like an asshole about it. Like, like you put the nice little zing and like the intelligence because you're like, I know what he's saying, and he's sounding like a douchebag, but he's making a point, and I'm gonna just kind of emphasize on what he actually means.
I'm gonna soften a couple of those edges there really quick.
Let me stand this down a little bit. Well, John's just trying to antagonize me, and if you ever have me on here too much with him, one of these days you're going to see me driving on camera. And I'm just helping out and just fight him. No, but no, because I like when John.
All right, look. Before Kyle gets on another tangent, let's wrap this. let's wrap this episode. So, nerds.
We're done. We thought we were in an actual.
Oh no, this is all staying in, buddy.
Oh yeah. Sorry, my bad.
No, but
what you meant was like we were done. I was like, cool. So I'm gonna start. So, yeah, I'm glad I didn't hit the full gas on that one.
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
I'm sorry.
Oh man, no, we're all good.
Show, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun, guys. We're gonna go ahead and wrap here, nerds. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to us jabber on this long. If you have any other DC characters that you'd like to hear about, shout them out in the comments, and make sure you check out Kyle at the Alpha Nerd Podcast. We'll have a link in the description. Nerds, been great hanging out. We'll see you.
Yeah.
Bye.